What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. It's Gameweek 35 plus preview time. Yes, there's another deadline just around the corner. At least this video gets to come out and have a whole day before the deadline, or pretty much anyway. So in this, I'm going to discuss your questions and topics as always. I think there's 8 different topics to go through, plus captaincy at the end. Let's jump into it. So first of all, let's talk about Mo Salah. A few people that already didn't own him, a few people like me pretty gutted that we got rid of him before an 18-point haul. So the questions kind of come in as, should we reverse that decision? Should non-owners buy as well? What do we do about Mo Salah? And if you watch that game, he is hungry for that golden boot. He's talked about it already. I know every single year we discuss whether the golden boot is a big thing, whether it's on players' minds. It definitely is. I talked about whether maybe yesterday Ings would take penalties over in Southampton just to get the golden boot. He didn't, but James Ward-Prowse did miss, so maybe he'll take the next one. But coming back to Mo Salah, like, all you needed to see was that Firmino kind of dummy, or whatever you want to call it. He left the ball for the first goal. He obviously got a shout from Salah, even though Firmino could have put that away himself. And, by the way, Firmino is not exactly in the best scoring form this season. Not that it's mattered. They've absolutely romped a victory in the Premier League, and obviously the Champions League winners last year as well. So it's not like they're relying on Firmino's goals. But I'm sure he would have liked to have scored himself. But yet he left it for Mo Salah, and obviously went on to get another goal. And I have never seen Mo Salah, I don't think, anyway, maybe it's just recency bias, but I don't remember seeing Mo Salah trying to win so many headers, and against that Brighton defence as well. Like, it's not like he's ever going to beat the likes of Dunk and stuff to a header, unless it's at the near post on a corner, of course. And he was just relentless, had so many shots in the box. He's obviously going for it. The big question is now, do you reverse the decision? And will he even play against Burnley? So, interestingly, and I mentioned this on the Scoutcast yesterday, before that Brighton match, Mane was only 1 goal behind Salah. So it's not like Salah was the one for the golden boot, or Mane was massively miles behind. He was just 1 goal behind, but obviously Salah played that game. Now he's 3 goals ahead of Mane. I'm sure Mane's not very happy about that. He came on. Mane's almost guaranteed to start the Burnley game. Obviously, Robertson didn't start either. Could we now see Trent and Salah on the other side both get a rest? I think there's a chance that happens. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but there's definitely a chance that could happen. Yes, the golden boot's important, but so is not getting your players injured. I know there's nothing to play for, but the next turnaround for the next season is probably going to be quite quick. So for me, I'm not going to reverse the decision. Yes, I am worried about it, though, because of how good he looked. But I think I've got to stick by the decision that I made, and I think some people have got to do the same. If you've got like maybe a one-way, like a one transfer move to get him in, like you've got enough money to bring him straight in, perhaps it's a good decision to do that. Would I captain him against Burnley? I'm not sure I would, unless I was massively confident that he was going to start. And maybe Klopp will give us some kind of indication in the press conference about, you know, yeah, he's really fit right now, I don't think he needs a rest, or something like that. It's still not going to guarantee a starting position, but maybe that will help out. So for me, I'm not going to reverse the decision, just in case he gets rested. One of the reasons I got rid of him was because I thought he might get rested over one of these 2 games. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Brighton game. Maybe it'll be the Burnley one. Then it's Arsenal away, which I think is actually quite a tricky fixture. I think the 2 after that are much better for Liverpool. So I might try and think of a plan where I get him in for Chelsea at home and Newcastle away, because Chelsea, very good going forward, not very good defensively. And Newcastle, I think, on their day, especially if, you know, that's the last game of the season, the golden boot is still on, that could be a huge score for Liverpool. So I'm not completely going without him for the rest of the season necessarily. I'm not going to reverse the decision. Should you? That's up to you. If you think that he's going to do really well and start versus Burnley, go for it. Those last 4 fixtures are probably not as bad as they look on paper. I think Arsenal away is probably the hardest one, actually. Burnley, Chelsea, Newcastle, all good. So if you want to reverse the decision, or if you want to buy him, absolutely go for it. No reason why you shouldn't. But just remember, Mane got a rest. Maybe he'll be the one that scores 2 goals this time. You just don't know. What to do with Calvert-Lewin? I got rid last week. I think it's time to get rid. Again, fixtures on paper look quite good, but actually I'm not sure they're that good, especially for a player that is just not in very good form right now. 5 games, no goals. Wolves away, Villa at home, Sheffield United away, Bournemouth at home. Now, we're going to talk about Wolves in a minute, and defensively I think they're actually doing okay. Villa, defensively, they're doing okay. I know they've shipped 2 goals to Liverpool, 3 goals to Man United, but the Man United game was... I'm not saying Man United wouldn't have won anyway, but the game was kind of turned once that penalty decision got confirmed, which it shouldn't have been. And that kind of turned the game for Villa. They were just never in it from that point on. And they did well against Liverpool as well, and probably a little bit unlucky to concede 2 goals in that one as well. So I think Villa have done quite well defensively as well. Sheffield United away, it's very hard to judge them right now because they've only had their back 5 fully fit from the start for 1 game, and that was against Wolves. So, and Wolves haven't been in the best attacking form either, so it's hard to judge whether Sheffield United's defence is back. But again, that could be a tricky fixture. The Bournemouth at home is good. With the form Calvert-Lewin is in, it's time for him to go, surely. There's other options. There's Ings, a little bit more expensive, but everyone seems to have money to burn right now. Ings, you could go to Jesus. Yes, he might not start this week, but you'd expect him to get good minutes for the rest of the season. Ings, Greenwood, they're all players I would rather have than Calvert-Lewin. I got rid of him for Jesus. If I had a Man United spot, like Greenwood is a no-brainer if you own Calvert-Lewin for me, and you've only got kind of 1 or 2 Man United players. So sometimes I think, I spoke before about trying to force players out, and like I really wanted to get rid of Calvert-Lewin, so I was thinking of any way to do it, but he is just not looking good right now. I think Everton themselves are looking quite poor in general as well. So there's just, so maybe if it was the start of the season, he had those fixtures, I'd give him a bit of time to get up to speed. There isn't much time left of the season now. We've got to make these big moves, and I think Calvert-Lewin out is one of them, to be honest. Are Willian and Pulisic good options? I think you have to say yes. Like, how can I argue they're not? They've pretty much scored or got points, attacking returns in every single game since the restart, and that's probably going to continue. Now, I've spoken already about Pulisic and Willian to a certain degree as well. And will they get rotated for that Norwich game? Now, the beauty of the Norwich game in Gameweek 36 is we will probably, hopefully, get the team news before that deadline. So we may know whether they're both starting or not. Now, I think a bit like Man United, I'm not sure there's going to be a huge amount of rotation in this Chelsea team, especially in attack, because they need to get that top 4 spot. It's hugely important for next season. And with Chelsea fixture in particular, they've got Liverpool away and Wolves at home after Norwich. So that Norwich game is kind of, it's not must win, but if they drop points there, then it's going to start to look really difficult for them with Liverpool and Wolves up next. So I'm not saying they need their first team to beat Norwich, but maybe Frank won't want to kind of put it in doubt basically, and just make sure they get the win and maybe put a few goals past Norwich and then look to kind of bring players off around the 60th, 70th minute and give them a rest before that FA Cup game against Man United, because that is in between Norwich and Liverpool. So they both look like good options. I really find the Willian funny. I've said this before because he keeps getting points. People keep saying that Pulisic's the better option and Willian keeps outscoring him. At some point, maybe that would change. I do think Pulisic looks very kind of goal hungry. I talked about it on a podcast yesterday. I think there's already kind of similarities with Hazard. Now, I am not saying he is as good as Hazard. Maybe he never will be. But the one thing I used to find with Hazard, which was so frustrating, was he would get into good positions in the box and then look for a pass. I never felt like he had that killer instinct in front of goal. Pulisic's a bit different. I feel like when he gets into the box, he's going to try and figure out how he can score a goal, not where his next kind of Chelsea player to pass to is. So I really like Pulisic as well. And I think when you watch these two players, they look extremely good. Like the eye test is good. Stats-wise, they're not bad either. So Sheffield United away, I've literally just spoken about them. You know, is that a tough fixture right now? I don't know. I think Chelsea's attack is so good that maybe they can get past Sheffield United. Then it's Norwich. Even Liverpool away. Like, Liverpool haven't been defending that well since the restart. And Wolves, you know, maybe even Wolves is kind of their toughest game end of the season. And at that point, who knows what will be to play for? Maybe that will be for a top 4 position. Maybe that will be for a top 5 position. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the City band. So I like these two players. Would I double up? Probably not. I think there's so many options in midfield right now. Mahrez, Foden, Sterling, De Bruyne, Martial, Fernandes. Even Antonio, I think, was a bit unlucky not to get points against Burnley. So there's lots of options in midfield. So I don't think, personally, I would double up. But I think bringing in one could be a shrewd decision. Like this week, for example, if you haven't already got Pulisic or Antonio, this is a decision I made last week, which I got wrong. But Pulisic plays Sheffield United away, and then Antonio plays Norwich. So you could maybe go for Norwich and then switch to Pulisic or something like that. But either way, great options. They don't look like they're going to stop scoring anytime soon. It's very hard not to kind of recommend them. And then lastly, is Vardy a maverick pick? Like, it's hard to judge because obviously FPL Twitter is, as big as it is, it's obviously a small percentage of the total active managers. So everyone's talking about getting Vardy in. But is everyone actually going to do that? I don't know. So I wouldn't call it a maverick pick because it feels like enough people are going to do it. Bringing him in and captaining him, I still think that's maverick because how can you not go for Fernandes after he's been so consistent? So to bring in Vardy and basically back against Bruno Fernandes, I think that is a maverick call. Now, will I do it? Should you do it? For me, I don't know if I trust, because Leicester, we're going to talk about Spurs soon who haven't been good. Leicester haven't been great either. But we know what Vardy's like. He's a bit of a streaky player. He's just scored 3 goals in 2. We've seen him go on these runs before. He's chasing the golden boot. That will mean a huge amount to him. And he's in pole position. Like Bournemouth, honestly, he could get so many games in goals at Bournemouth. They could put the whole golden boot to rest. Now, I don't know how much attention I would pay to Bournemouth getting a clean sheet against Spurs because that was one of the worst matches I've watched since the restart. So I still think Vardy's a good pick. He's a maverick captaincy pick for sure. For me, if I bring him in, it'll only be for 1 week, and then I'll ship him out. So if it's for a hit and you're not captaining him, I really don't think it's worth it. If you're going to captain him and it's for a hit, potentially, but you've got to remember, if you're going to get rid of him straight away, that is 2 transfers. Now, you can sit there and say, well, it's for free this week, and then it'll be for free next week. But free transfers obviously don't cost you points, but potentially they could, because if you plan to bring Vardy in and get rid of him, but you need to do something else, then suddenly you're looking at hits. If Vardy gets a hat-trick or something, you've captained him, then maybe it doesn't matter. You've got some points to play with. But for me, that's what worries me, is using 2 transfers to do it. Could I just leave my team as it is this week and be way more flexible next week with 2 free transfers? Bearing in mind that things in FPL are changing so quickly at the moment. And also, we're going to talk about in a sec, there's the option to kind of rotate premium. So Bournemouth are playing Man City in Gameweek 36. If we see that some players get rested in 35, suddenly we think they're probably good chances to play in 36. And maybe you want to use transfers to get them in. Maybe you want to use a transfer to get Pulisic in for captaincy against Norwich. Something like that. Something more maverick as well. So yes, it could be for free this week. And yes, it could be free to get rid of him next week. But that's 2 free transfers just to get Vardy in for 1 game. That is what I would think about. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying give that a think. And that is what position I'm in right now. If I'm not going to captain him, it doesn't sound as good as if I am. I might still do it. A lot of people are thinking of doing it for Jimenez, and obviously attacking-wise, he hasn't looked good. And Everton up next, I think, is actually quite a tricky fixture as well. So I'm not really saying hold on to Jimenez. But just think about the 2 free transfers thing with Vardy before you make the move. And if you still want to do it, absolutely go for it. I still think Bournemouth's a good fixture. So let's talk about Sterling and Mane. And this kind of ties in with something I spoke about either on the last preview video or the one before. I'm kind of losing track. They're coming so thick and fast. About rotating premium big hitters, especially if you've got a few spare transfers. So arguably you could say that's the same as getting Vardy in and getting him back out. But I think this is a little bit different because potentially you could keep these players for a few more games, especially Sterling. Like Man City's fixtures are so good. So first of all, if you've got Sterling or Mane, they both started on the bench and came on. So the chances are they're both going to start this week. If Mane doesn't start, I will go and buy a hat and eat it because he's just guaranteed to start this week. Sterling, obviously, we could see Pep rotating or benching the same player twice in a row. Probably very unlikely with Sterling. So he's probably going to start as well. So they look like great options. If you've got them, there's absolutely no reason not to keep them, I think. Personally, that's what I would do. You could also bring them in, especially Sterling. Like Mane is an interesting one because if you look at Liverpool's fixtures on paper, they don't necessarily look that good. I already spoke about with Salah. They probably are better than they look, though. So I don't mind actually bringing in Mane if you've got the money to do it. Do you get rid of someone like Kevin De Bruyne to do it? I mean, that would be a big call. If you wanted to make a big decision, you could do that. Will Kevin De Bruyne get rotated once or twice for the next 4 games? Maybe, but we know how much he's capable of getting a big score. And that 1 assist in the last game was unlucky. He should have had way more than that. But if you've got the money to do it and you want to take out a premium hitter or whatever it might be, or if you've just got the money from owning Foden and Greenwood and players like that, I think these 2 look really good for captaincy. Now, a lot of people will say, well, is it risky going for them for captaincy? Other players will be, heavily captained. Fernandes, I'm sure, will be the most captain player. Kevin De Bruyne will probably be up there, and so will Salah. A few people will go Vardy, but I don't think it will be that high. Sterling and Mane won't be captained that highly, and I think they've got a big upside as well. So Sterling is the one. I think for me, if I was going to go for one of these this week, I think I prefer Sterling. And one of the reasons I like that as well is I prefer the fixtures for the rest of the season. And I think he's looked really good since the restart as well. So if you're going to bring someone in, one of these 2 looks good, I think, as a big hitter. Probably even ahead of Jamie Vardy, to be completely honest. And if you've got them, you absolutely have to keep. So really good options. I think if you want to go for the premium transfer kind of route, going one premium in, then maybe get rid of them 1 or 2 game weeks later to go for someone else, especially when it's for captaincy. I mean, that could be a huge call. Of course, Fernandes could outscore both of them again. That would be frustrating. But again, last game, 2 set-piece returns, one from a corner where he passed the ball back to Pogba on the edge of the box, who then scored from there. Another day that gets saved by a better keeper. And the first one was a penalty that shouldn't have been given. I'm not taking anything away from Fernandes. In fact, he's probably one of the best captain choices this week. But at some point, he's not going to get those set-piece returns. But it is worth saying he should have scored from a header as well. He does get into the box. He does kind of create chances from open play as well. So he has got plenty of ways to return points. But I think Sterling and Mane look like really good options. So Everton defence, as poor as they've been going forward, I think they've been quite good defensively. Maybe a little bit under the radar as well. They have conceded in every one of their last 3 games, which is unfortunate and annoying if you own an Everton defender. But they've only conceded 1 goal in each of those games. They have been quite tight affairs. And hopefully going forward with the fixtures they've got, and bearing in mind it's Wolves away, not been in great goal scoring form. Villa at home, really struggling to score goals. Sheffield United away, not a team I would back for goals either. And Bournemouth at home, who could be relegated by that last day of the season. So an Everton defender's not that bad. I don't think personally. Like I spoke about Lucas Digne in my watch this video. Now I'm not saying he's so must have you should go out and get him, but if you are going to make a defensive transfer, I do quite like the Everton defence. Now, when you think about other defenders you could get, Man United defenders, I think at this point you probably already own a Man United defender, and in my case I'm probably hating that because you can't get Greenwood, or you own triple attack. And if you do only own 2, you're probably looking at triple attack, not defence. Wolves defenders, I think, you either own them already or you're not probably going to bring them in at this point, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Spurs, maybe Aurier. I think Aurier could be a good option, maybe ahead of Lucas Digne. A lot of people own him at this point, or at least it feels like they do. But I think defensively Spurs look good. Again, going to talk about that in a sec. Who else is there? Liverpool defenders, I'm not sure I would buy them right now. Chelsea even, like Azpilicueta starts every single game. But Chelsea defence is not something I would back. So I would maybe look Everton defence. So I like Lucas Digne. No one has created more chances than him for defenders since the restart. So even ahead of Trent Alexander-Arnold. You could go for Holgate a lot cheaper, but for me, I just think there's so much money flying around at the moment. You just spend it on Lucas Digne. And obviously Holgate is injured at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see when he comes back. So yeah, I quite like the Everton defence. What to do with Wolves? So let's split this into attack and defence. I would say most people for attack only own Jimenez. If you own Jota, if you own Traore, for me, they're goners. You can't 100% guarantee they're going to start every game. I'm sure they will start the majority. But for me, Jimenez is the only one worth looking at. And even he, I would get rid of. And if I don't get rid of him this week, I will definitely get rid of him next week, even if he scores. Because I'm not getting rid of him, or not even suggesting to get rid of him, thinking that he'll never score for the rest of the season. But he's not going to score enough where it warrants probably keeping him, I don't think, where you can't get another striker that's going to score more. Will Danny Ings score more than Jimenez before the end of the season? Probably. Will Greenwood? Probably. Will Jesus? Probably. You kind of see where I'm getting at. I don't think Jimenez is going to stop scoring completely. Don't think he's going to score enough. So probably a good time to go. It's Everton at home this week. You could get something there, but like I've just said, I do kind of think that Everton defence is pretty decent, and Wolves are going to struggle there. And they have struggled to create chances. When you watch them, defensively they're quite good. They're not really, I wouldn't say they're conceding too many chances. There was a spell against Sheffield United where it felt like they were trying to give Sheffield United a goal. But yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about the defence. Like, if you own Doherty, he does feel like a lot of money right now when he's not getting those attacking returns. But again, with so much money flying about, if you've got a lot of money in the bank, I wouldn't worry about that too much. Unless you need the money, then maybe, yes, you could look to downgrade him. I've got size. I just look at those fixtures, Wolves, Villa, Sheffield United and Bournemouth, and think I'm okay to play him every single week. Am I expecting 4 clean sheets? Absolutely not. But I'm probably prioritising my transfers on the attack and not on defence. So I maybe wouldn't buy them. Maybe there's other defenders I would have ahead of them. Probably Aurier at this point, and probably Everton, like Lucas Digne as well. But when I already own them, I probably wouldn't get rid. But Jimenez, I think it's probably time. I looked at it last week, to be honest. It didn't matter in the end because I got rid of Calvert-Lewin, who scored 1 less point than Jimenez with just 1 point. Jimenez got 2. But this week I'm definitely looking at it. If not, he will go next week. So Jimenez to Vardy, very popular transfer. If not, I think Jimenez to Ings will be a huge transfer in Gameweek 36, and it's definitely the one that I am looking at. And I just wanted to talk about Spurs because they're so awful. I said last night on the stream that my biggest achievement yesterday was staying awake for that Spurs game. It was so bad. They were so awful going forward. And this is what I was saying earlier. I wouldn't necessarily now back that Bournemouth defence because they didn't concede to Spurs. Like, I haven't seen many worse attacking performances since the restart. Now, I was looking at Kane. I do think I saw glimpses in that West Ham game. Sheffield United, he had the ball in the back a few times. Didn't look great. Neither did Spurs. They looked awful against Bournemouth. And I'm not having this that Bournemouth are a good defence. I don't think they've ever had a good defence, to be completely honest. Spurs are so bad right now. Would I get rid of them? Yes. If I had Son or Kane, way too much money. Forget the money. There's just better options. Greenwood is a better option than Kane right now. Danny Ings is a better option than Kane right now. I've already spoken about all these forwards, and they're way cheaper anyway. Son, when you've got, like, I've got a midfield 5 where I can't fit in Sterling, where I can't fit, when I say can't fit in, as in I've already got 5 midfielders I really like. I don't have Salah, I don't have Mane, I don't have Sterling, I don't have Foden, I don't have Pulisic, I don't have Willian. Where on earth am I going to put Son? Like, he's probably, like, right now 11th, 12th, 13th choice midfielder, maybe even further behind. Again, a bit like Jimenez. I'm not saying Kane and Son aren't going to score, but there is no way they warrant a selection in our teams as it stands. There are better options out there. Aurier, I think defensively Spurs look okay. They don't look like they're going to concede too many goals. Now, Bournemouth didn't really go for it at times when they should have. Maybe they were knackered. Obviously, the 5 sub rule definitely benefits teams with bigger squad depth and more quality like Spurs over a team like Bournemouth. But they are going to be tested in the next few games. I could see Arsenal scoring for sure. Like, Aubameyang against Spurs looks like a really good bet right now. So I'd still quite like to have Aurier. I think if I had him, I would definitely keep him. Maybe even play him this week. But attacking-wise, they got to go. Okay, so let's talk about captaincy. As always, I'll quickly touch on some fixtures I've not got up on the screen, like Sheffield United versus Chelsea, Pulisic and Willian in really good form. I do just think that Sheffield United defence would worry me enough that I wouldn't captain them. I'm not saying don't bring them in. I'm not saying don't play them. But for captaincy, that's not really a great fixture for me. So I wouldn't captain them there. And Spurs versus Arsenal. Look, I don't want to start making jokes that Spurs are so bad you should captain Aubameyang. But I guess it is a consideration for some people that still own him. But realistically, there's not enough upside in that Spurs versus Arsenal game, especially if Spurs do a good defensive job. And we know Arsenal defence has been quite good as well. So I wouldn't look there. Elsewhere, Liverpool versus Burnley. I think that's a really good fixture. I know, and don't get me wrong, I know as well as anyone how well Nick Pope is doing right now. But I think all that game needs is an early Liverpool goal and Nick Pope not to be Superman, getting all these saves as he always seems to get. And that could be a big score. Now, who'd you captain? I still think Mane's a great captain shout. I think Salah is, if you're ballsy enough to think that he's definitely going to start. And obviously, you can frame it how you want. He's in with a chance to Golden Boot. He's not going to get rested. They've got nothing else to play for. No Champions League, no FA Cup. He's not going to get rested. And you could be right. Sometimes I think of it from my shoes. If I had him when I captained him, I probably wouldn't. But then I've made so many bad decisions since the restart. Maybe just don't listen to me and maybe just go for Salah. But overall, I think that's a good fixture. As I've said already, Brighton at home have already conceded 3 goals to Liverpool, 3 to Man United. I think it's a good fixture for Man City. My biggest problem with that is, outside of Sterling, who is guaranteed to start? My thinking is De Bruyne had a bit of a rest. He's probably going to start again, so he could be a good captaincy option. But what I'm doing with Man City is probably not targeting this game for captaincy. I don't own Sterling, so it's a little bit of a different story for me. Seeing who gets reduced minutes or kind of a sub appearance from the start, and then maybe looking to captain those players in Gameweek 36 when they play Bournemouth. So for me, I like that fixture. And if you want to go for kind of maybe a high upside player, for example, which a lot of people are talking about right now, that could be a decent fixture, especially for Sterling. But potentially you could just go maybe safer, if you want to call it that, this week, and then maybe look for someone else next week. Like if Jesus was benched against Brighton, would I consider him against Bournemouth as captain? I probably would. I might regret it, but I definitely consider it. So I like the Brighton versus Man City fixture as well. Bournemouth versus Leicester. Look, I don't think Bournemouth ever had a good defence really in the Premier League. Not very often. It's always a fixture that I've talked about for goals. Not just this season, but all previous seasons as well when they've been in the league and I've been doing FPL content. I think Vardy captain is a good option this week. I don't think it's as bad as Kane was. I don't think he's that bad right now. I don't think Leicester are that bad right now. But they are missing Maddison. I don't know if he's going to be back. They've switched to this new formation. Don't know if that's quite working for them. So like I said earlier, it is a maverick pick. It is a bit of a punt. But it could be an interesting one. If that pays off versus Fernandes, versus De Bruyne, versus Sterling, versus Salah, you're in for a huge return. But obviously, if it doesn't, you could be in for a red arrow too. So it depends what type of manager you are, really. And Man United versus Southampton. Look, Southampton only conceded 1 to Everton. Everton not really in great attacking form right now. They didn't concede any to Man City, but they should have done. I think this is a good game. I think this is an interesting game, I would say, for Man United, because out of all the teams they played recently, Southampton are probably going to attack the most, and they're going to press them as well. We've seen Ings do that. They press from the front. That's how Hasenhüttl has them set up. And they're going to cause Man United problems. And I'm not saying Man United defended badly, but I think if they played a better team in the last couple of games, we would have conceded more. We even conceded 2 to Bournemouth, to be fair. So I'm a little bit worried that if Southampton get the first goal, they might just shut up shop and be able to do it like they did against Man City. I think Man United are in such good form right now. I don't really see that happening. Hopefully they can get a control on the game from the start. But that is a little bit of a worry for me. But ultimately, how can you back against Bruno Fernandes? Again, he's been in such good form. He's only blanked twice since he came into the league. He does have set pieces. Will Rashford take the next one? I guess that's a bit of a consideration. We don't quite know how the rotation is going to happen there. Like, how is it decided? Do they just decide on the day or what it might be? And for the other Man United options, look, Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, they're all options as well. Obviously, you know they're all going to be captain less than Fernandes will be. So if you want to take a bit of a punt, that could be a good option. I do think that Southampton game could be open for goals from both sides. I don't see Southampton keeping another clean sheet. So I really like Fernandes. Personally, if I could pick anyone this week, I may even look at Sterling. For my team, I'm probably going to go Fernandes or Martial unless I bring Vardy in. I'll only bring Vardy in for captaincy. Big punt. But loads of good captaincy options this week. Again, like it has been for the last few weeks, there's loads of varied options. I think that's decent. Let me know in the comments below, who are you captaining this week? That's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a like. Much appreciated as always. Really helps out the channel. If you are new, subscription button right here. Click that. Hit that notification bell so you know when all the other videos and live streams are live. All my links to Twitter and Instagram are in the description below. I'm doing lots more extra video content on Instagram, so make sure to follow me there. If you want to watch another video, there's some to the right. Otherwise, I will catch you later. Cheers all.